So this is fascinating. I've been saying for a while that it's time for Europe and the Western world to wake up and get tough on actual, real Jew hatred, racism, extremism, because for as long as you wish to indulge the fantasy that it's all actually moderate and based on a legitimate grievance, and that, as the police said, jihad can mean a personal internal struggle when they're talking about people on the streets crying and screaming out for jihad on the Western streets. It's a choice that we've had to face. Are we going to continue to live in delusion or get tough? Well, it turns out that recently Germany, a German court has affirmed a ban on that was instituted by various regions of Germany, ruling that from the river to the sea will be banned as a chant. Why? Because it's genocidal. I want to read to you the story and then talk about it. A German court upheld a ban imposed by police in 2 cities on chanting the slogan, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," citing its association with Hamas terrorist group. The Dusseldorf Administrative Court issued the ruling on petitions by anti-Israel activists in Duisburg and Düsseldorf over police enforcement of a ban on chanting the slogan at rallies in December and April. Hamas have adopted the slogan through constant practice, and this means that its use is fundamentally prohibited, the court ruled. Germany's Interior Ministry on November 2nd banned all Hamas activities and its front association HIRAK, which it ordered dissolved. German police have refused to authorize anti-Israel rallies in Duisburg and Düsseldorf, citing the likelihood of the slogan being chanted, thereby violating the ban on Hamas. The anti-Israel petitioners included several other slogans they said the police had banned, including Israeli crimes against the Gaza Strip, Stop the Genocide, Yalla Intifada, and Israel Child Killer. The court said these slogans were legal and that the police did not have legal grounds to ban them. And I want to continue reading this through the story and how it developed in a Guardian piece of all places, where it's saying that this Berlin court had convicted a pro-Palestinian activist of condoning a crime for leading the chant "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," at a rally in the German capital 4 days after the Hamas attacks on Israel, in what her defense team called a defeat for free speech. The presiding judge, Birgit Balzer, ordered a 22-year-old German-Iranian national to pay a £600 fine. They rejected her argument that she meant only to express support for, quote, peace and justice in the Middle East by calling out the phrase on a busy street. Balzer said she could not comprehend the logic of previous German court rulings that determined the saying was ambiguous, saying to her it was clear that it denied the right of the State of Israel to exist. She said this opinion could be covered by the freedom of expression in Germany, but the slogan's use has to be evaluated in the context of the biggest massacre of Jews since the Shoah. That is the elephant in the room. The case heard under tight scrutiny was one of several since the 7th of October Hamas attacks in Israel and the subsequent destruction of Gaza that have examined Germany's strict limits on pro-Palestinian demonstrations. Moyari's lawyers call it the first trial in Berlin that centered on the use of the politically charged phrase. I'll stop the article so far, but now I'd like to just give you some reflections. I have to say, I even find the phrase in The Guardian, "destruction of Gaza," quite sinister, because Israel's going after Hamas, Israel's fighting a war. Destruction implies some kind of genocidal program or intent. But anyway, not anything we should be surprised about with The Guardian. But to be honest, I think that there's a key takeaway. People will often say, yeah, but what about free speech? And I agree, as much as possible, we should try to have free speech and educate, because I do believe that that's the best way to turn the tide and to defeat ignorance and hatred. However, if a world in which free speech is celebrated, like we have in the West, says we're going to allow people who hate everything about the West, who hate everything about Western allies as well, and seek its destruction, if we're going to let them basically use and abuse the freedoms and values of the West in order to destroy it, then that is a surefire way to destruction. There has to be a point at which one says, if you're literally inciting explicit violent hatred, that has to have consequences. In the same way that you would stop an attacker from planning something because they're about to commit a crime, so too when you're literally inciting genocide, there needs to be serious consequences. And that's the way that I think it has to be part and parcel of how we deal with this. Let's be clear. The phrase "from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free" is calling for the ethnic cleansing of Jews from the land of Israel, from their ancestral homeland. It's two crimes. Number one, it's saying the Jews should be removed from their ancient homeland, which is saying they should be removed from their home. This is their ancient home. If ever a people had a connection to the land, it's the Jewish people to the land of Israel. And so you're threatening their safety in that way by uprooting them from their home. And then secondly, the reason why it's also a crime is because we know that if Jews were no longer, if Israel was no longer sovereign in that territory, and they say, no, it would just be some kind of binational state where, there'd be Arabs and Jews, we know that it would turn into a bloodbath for Jews if Jewish people didn't have sovereignty in that land and they simply lived there under Arab or Islamic control. Israel has always been prepared to live at peace with the neighbors in whatever formula that would come to in the end. They've always been prepared to live in peace, and any things that the other side laments and complains of only happened as a result of their unwillingness to accept the Jewish people living and returning to their homeland, which they did in an overwhelmingly peaceful way. The displacement and all the things they lament happened when they tried to go to war against the Jews and uproot them. And so it's clear that the cause of saying "from the river to the sea, free Palestine," it's basically saying the Jews don't have a right to life, they have a right to their home, and we're not going to take any notice of the fact that when they weren't in their home for 2,000 years, they fared many times in their history very, very badly and suffered a lot under the rulership of other nations, particularly Islamic and Arab ones. And therefore, to be totally blind to that and say, we don't care about that, they can go, we're not interested, is to be inciting basically genocidal language. You're saying that Jewish people are not interested in them living or thriving, which has been the oldest story in the book. The whole Free Palestine thing is just the latest mutation of that age-old hatred, and it's done a brilliant job of surviving, because this time, in a world in which there is now a value for human rights and human life and caring for the victim, it's managed to totally repackage itself, anti-Semitism has, in order to seem as if it's somehow virtuous and just caring for the downtrodden. Be under no illusion. Don't fall for the shame tactics of the anti-Israel side. The purpose of Free Palestine is no different than the intent of the Nazis. In fact, they literally collaborated with each other, and the Nazi regime handed on the baton to the first Palestinian leader, Hajj Amin al-Husseini. It's heartbreaking that this is the case. It's heartbreaking that these things are true, but they are. And we have to stop being ambiguous about it. The only way that we can really get peace in the world, stability, order, and truth is by being strong, and peace coming through strength and telling the truth. And that's why no, From the River to the Sea could not be perceived as about social justice, even though many people that say it, they may well think that's what it represents. And that's why I think it's so important to have education as the critical component. But at the same time, when things are so insightful as I believe From the River to the Sea is, I actually welcome what Germany has decided to do here in saying, we're not going to tolerate this. We need a bit of carrot and a bit of stick. I welcome your thoughts as well. What do you think is the way that we need to deal with these kinds of hateful chants? As Douglas Murray put it, we have the sinister and the silly in terms of the anti-Israel haters. Some are just ignorant and they just need to be educated. Some know exactly what it means when they say "from the river to the sea." And there, that challenge becomes a little bit harder to deal with, or a lot harder to deal with. But I've got to tell you, even in those cases, with those who are sinister in their hatred, I think some of them, if we can really speak the truth, particularly about the Jewish people and their divine connection to the land of Israel, particularly for the Islamic zealots, I think that actually might have a bit of an impact. The Jewish people have actually been far too dependent on secular arguments, which an Arab world simply doesn't respect. I think this may play a role in defeating more of the ideological hostility to Israel. People may find that surprising, but we have to remember that Israel's war is primarily not fought in media studios in the West. It's fought in a God-centric, strength-respecting Middle East. If you've made it so far in this video, I have a request for you. JTV has been having a really big impact in spreading the truth about Israel and creating positive associations with the Jewish people, Judaism, and Israel. We've really grown a lot, particularly in the last year, and we're having a really significant impact, both for Jews and non-Jews. But I really want to take JTV to the next level so we can start to compete with the other big online media beasts that are often peddling anti-Israel content. And the way we're going to do that is to scale even faster. So I'd love to build a team where we have other presenters doing shows like me, let's start doing documentaries, supplementary content, animated content, etc., etc. And to do that, I'd like to build a bit of a team. So what we're going to do is we're going to do one fundraising day, just one, where we try and build up some funding in order to fund such a team. Now, to do that, it's going to obviously require people to get involved. And I'm wondering if you would consider, if you're watching JTV content and appreciate what we do and want to help partner with us in taking this to the next level and spreading the truth farther and wider than ever before, I wonder if you'd consider partnering with us simply by running a mini page on the fundraiser that we do, where you just reach out to your contacts on that day that we choose to fundraise and see if they'll all chip in. If you'd be up for doing that, of which I would be so grateful, then please click on the Google form link in the video description of this video, where you can simply just put in a few contact details. It'll be a very small commitment, as I say, literally just one day that we'll all agree upon as a collective community. But the impact is going to be so big. There's such strength in numbers. If we all pull together and do this, we can take this to the next level. And as I say, all of us can partner together in bringing and spreading the truth to the whole world. So please do consider clicking on that link, filling in the form, and I'll be in touch very soon to talk about the next steps. Small commitment, but a big impact. Hi, thank you so much for watching. To watch another one, click here. To stay up to date with all our content, click here to subscribe. And if you're able to, you can help support JTV to grow and grow by clicking join below this video, where you can become a member and get perks including early access to videos and private live discussions with me. But most of all, you'll be partnering with us on our mission to change the world.